The roads and military bases where supplies are transported to the Russian army are being successfully hit by Ukrainian drones and missiles. This results in the Russian army being left without supplies on the front. The scale of the problem is growing for the Russians. Kiev can paralyze the enemy's logistics. Recently, a Ukrainian naval drone carried out a historic operation to destroy a helicopter of the aggressor country, Russia, by firing a missile at it. A few days later, Ukraine attacked 2 more enemy helicopters with the same Magura V5 drone, also hitting the third one. As reported by SERA, back in May 2024, information appeared on the internet about the armament of Ukrainian naval drones with Soviet anti-aircraft missiles. Since then, Kyiv has begun to use them quite often to strike Russian targets. On January the 5th, naval drones from the Black Sea attacked the Pantsir Russian air defense system in the occupied territory of the Kherson region. The drones were delivered deep behind enemy lines using a naval drone. Therefore, from this moment, it became clear that the occupier's aviation, which hunts Ukrainian drones, cannot be completely safe. Thus, Russia is forced to increase spending on defense in the form of air defense and electronic warfare systems, including for the Crimean Bridge. Experts say that if Kyiv continues to attack enemy targets with sea drones, the logistics of the occupation forces in the temporarily occupied Crimea may be completely paralyzed. UK Defence Intelligence reports that Ukrainian uncrewed aerial systems have disabled 25% of storage capacity at the Krystal oil depot near Engels 2 airbase in Saratov Oblast, Russia, through 2 precision strikes in January 2025. The coordinated attacks on one of Russia's key fuel facilities demonstrate Ukraine's expanding capability to degrade strategic infrastructure deep within Russian territory, with satellite imagery confirming impacts on 14 of the facility's approximately 40 storage tanks. The initial strike on the 8th of January 2025 triggered large-scale fires within the petroleum, oil and lubricant storage areas, which reportedly took several days to extinguish. It reportedly destroyed 800,000 tons of jet fuel, equivalent to 90 sorties by 21 strategic bombers. A follow-up attack on the 14th of January reignited the facility and caused additional infrastructure damage. Analysis of satellite imagery from the 21st of January 2025, released by the UK Ministry of Defence, reveals 4 POL tanks were completely destroyed and 10 others sustained significant damage, affecting a quarter of the depot's total storage capacity. Assuming that the Krystal depot has large fuel tanks storing 80,000 tons of jet fuel each, and that 100% of this capacity was lost in the 4 destroyed tanks and 50% in the damaged tanks, this would put the total amount of destroyed fuel at 720,000 tons, which supports the Ukrainian earlier estimate. The Krystal oil depot's strategic location, just 8 kilometers from Engels 2 airbase, makes it a crucial component of Russia's military logistics infrastructure in the region. The substantial degradation of its storage capacity could impact fuel supply operations for both civilian and military purposes. The successful execution of these strikes, coupled with the significant proportion of storage capacity affected, highlights Ukraine's growing precision in targeting key Russian infrastructure, according to UK Defence Intelligence assessment.
President Donald Trump wasted little time this week trying to assign blame for the nation's deadliest air disaster in more than 2 decades. Among his chief targets, an FAA diversity hiring initiative he suggested had undermined the agency's effectiveness. According to Associated Press, in remarks in the Oval Office, Trump said he was not concerned that his comments about the deadly air crash could affect the investigation. "It'll probably come out the way I said it," he said. This was all caused by bad rules, regulations and other things by the Biden administration. No evidence has emerged that rules seeking to diversify the FAA played any role in the collision Wednesday between an American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter that killed 67 people. Responding to reports that some U.S. government systems would be taken down to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion language from their sites, the president said it didn't sound like a bad idea to him. "I think DEI is dead. I think DEI is dead. So they want to scrub the website. That's okay with me. Trump also said on Friday his administration has already had very serious discussions with Russia about its war in Ukraine and that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin could soon take significant action toward ending the grinding conflict. "We will be speaking, and I think we'll perhaps do something that'll be significant," Trump said in exchange with reporters in the Oval Office. Trump did not say who from his administration has been in contact with the Russians but insisted the two sides were already talking. Asked if he has already spoken directly with Putin, Trump was coy, "I don't want to say that." Trump has said repeatedly he wouldn't have allowed the conflict to start if he had been in office, even though he was president as fighting grew in eastern Ukraine between Kiev's forces and separatists backed by Moscow, ahead of Putin sending in tens of thousands of troops in 2022.
Mr. President, on the crash, do you have any concerns that your commentary about things you have described as common sense or your observations could in any way interfere with the thorough investigation of the crash?
No, I think they'll do an investigation. It'll probably come out the way I said it. I like to put it up front. I'm so tired of listening to things happen to our country and then people say we'll do an investigation and 3 years later they come out with a report that nobody looks at. Especially, not in all cases can you do that, but in this case, you had a helicopter that was, the Black Hawk was too high. It was above the 200 limit by double. Shouldn't have been there. And there were some other mistakes made too, and I pointed them out also, and I was right on all of it, but they'll still do an investigation just to check it out, but I think that's what you're doing.
As Commander-in-Chief, are you at all concerned about opining about the Army and the conduct of that aircraft when you are Commander-in-Chief and these are the people who report to you, and there is an investigation on that?
This was all caused by bad rules, regulations, and other things by Biden, the Biden administration. And when you look at the way they ran things, in fact, if you look, we hired, one of the first things I told them to do, I said, get talented people in those beautiful towers overlooking runways. You better get them in there fast because we don't have people there that are qualified. And you knew that because planes were landing very, very late. They were circling all over the place.
People relying on that as safety, are you suggesting there's an ongoing risk?
No, I think there's very little risk, but I think that we have to make sure that this never happens again. Very, very little risk.
Yes, sir.
We have to have the best people, the smartest people, the sharpest people.
Government websites, will be shut down this evening to scrub them of DEI content. Can you confirm whether that's accurate and if there are any concerns?
I don't know. It doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. DEI would have ruined our country, and now it's dead. I think DEI is dead, so if they want to scrub the websites, that's okay with me.
On your call with Vladimir Putin.
Well, we'll be speaking. Well, we'll be speaking. We'll be speaking, and I think we'll perhaps do something that'll be significant. We want to end that war. That war would have never started if I was president, and we want to end that war. That war is a horrible war. Millions of young people are being killed, mostly on the lines now, mostly soldiers. But the cities have been largely destroyed, many of them. They're like demolition sites. But the soldiers are just shooting at each other. You know, it's a very flat land. I said this the last time, very, very flat land. The only place that a bullet stops is when it hits a person. And they're hitting a lot of people. They're hitting a lot of soldiers, but on both sides. You know, I think Russia would probably say close to 800,000, and Ukraine 600,000 or 700,000. And it's just a senseless situation, and it's got to stop. So whatever I can do to stop it, and we are having discussions, yes.
Ongoing, already scheduled, and ongoing?
Already talking, yes.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to say that, but we are having very serious discussions about.
You don't want to?
Well, I just don't want to say that. We're having very serious discussions about that war, trying to get it ended.
With Russia?
With Russia, yeah. Whatever I can do to stop it, and we are having discussions, yes.
Ongoing, already scheduled, and ongoing?
Already talking, yes.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to say that, but we are having very serious discussions about.
Is there a reason you don't want to?
We are, well, I just don't want to say that. We're having very serious discussions about that war, trying to get it ended.
With Russia?
With Russia.